All right, we are now live. So, hello and welcome to anyone joining us a few minutes early. My name is Charlotte. I'll be your money show host for this session. I do have Harold here with me in the Zoom room. We are ready to begin the presentation on time at 4:50 p.m. That is Eastern time, coming up again in just a few short minutes. If you're looking for something to do while you wait, feel free to check out IBD's virtual booth. They do have some information as well as some deals available above the video player if you scroll up here. And if you scroll below the video player, that's where you can locate their handouts if you're interested in downloading or checking out those links that are available there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session. It is my pleasure to introduce Harold Morris, Senior Product Coach for Leaderboard and Market Search with Investors Business Daily. Harold has traded stocks using IBD investing strategies since 1998, and he began working with them in April of 2002. He specializes in providing introductory, intermediate, and advanced investing seminars to individual and professional investors alike. Now, to our live viewers, if you have questions for Harold, please feel free to share them in the live chat box. Time permitting, we'll do our best to get to those at the end of the session. And with that said, I will hand the mic on over to you, Harold. I'll be here if you need me, but the floor is all yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Charlotte, and then welcome to everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be on today's session. So we have a lot to cover, so we're going to get into it right away. So as Charlotte mentioned, I am your host. That's me, Harold Morris. I'm a product coach here at IBD, IBD Live panelist, national speaker, and most importantly, is our mission statement. So our mission here at IBD is to help our customers, help our subscribers make more money in the market. That's our goal, that's our purpose, and that's what we attempt to do. And we're going to show you in today's session how we do that with one of our products. But before we can get into the details of what we're going to talk about today, we do have a disclaimer. So everything we do here today is for educational purposes only. Any stocks mentioned are not buy or sell recommendations. So you're urged to do your own research. All right. And what are we going to do today? So here is the agenda for today. So let me give you a brief story of just who IBD is. Who are we? Who is Investors Business Daily? So let me give you a brief background as to who we are. We're going to talk about the four pillars of our IBD methodology. I'm going to go over you a quick overview of the different products that we have. I'm going to walk you through a three-step routine on how to use the IBD Digital. So most of our time is going to be spent on this three-step routine. And then we're going to talk about the kind of support that we have and what you can do to get started today with IBD. And then time permitting, we will have a Q&A. So just who is Investors Business Daily? So the company was founded in 1984 by William J. O'Neill. So we've been around for 42 years now, and we like to say we're 42 years young. So we're always trying to trying to innovate and come up with new ideas on how to help customers make money in the market using IBD. In 2021, we were acquired by Dow Jones. So we are a Dow Jones company, but we still operate pretty much the same as we did prior to the acquisition. Now, here at IBD, we operate on a fact-based system. There's a lot of conversation out there. You can go on YouTube, you can go to different social media outlets and get information about, what to do in the market. But we have a fact-based, proven system on how to make money in the market. So we've done a lot of research. We have research that goes back into the late 1800s on how some of the techniques and strategies that we're going to talk about today existed back then. So it is a fact-based, proven system that if you're disciplined and you take the time to learn the system, you can achieve the kind of financial freedom that many of our subscribers have achieved. All right, so what we do is we marry three different approaches here. So you have fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and market timing. So we marry these three concepts. And on the fundamental side, we have ratings in our newspaper and on our IBD Digital. Very easy to understand ratings. 99 is the best, 1 is the worst. So our fundamentals, our ratings look at the stock's earnings, sales, profit margins. So we're very focused in on the fundamentals of the stock. IBD tends to be characterized as a momentum company, but no, we start out with the fundamentals. So we're very fundamentally focused. Then we also look at the technicals. So looking at the charts, looking at support and resistance, chart patterns. So once we find a stock that has the type of fundamentals we like to see, then we look at the chart pattern to see, okay, is the stock in a position to buy? And then same thing on the sell side. We're looking at the chart to see, okay, have we reached a profit target, or did it hit a stop loss where the trade didn't work out? So we're using technical analysis to make that decision as far as when to buy and when to sell. And then market timing is extremely important part of what we do here at IBD, because you can do all the fundamental things right, looking at the stocks, the sales, earnings, profit margins. You can do all that correctly. Same thing on the technical side. You can do the proper technical analysis, looking at support, resistance, buy points, sell points. But none of that is going to pay off as well as it should if you're not in sync with the market. So we have a very good market timing strategy. Don't have time to get into the details of it, but I'll talk a little bit about that a little as we go along here. So market timing, very extremely important part of what we do here at IBD. Now, our approach here at IBD, it's fourfold. So we like to call these pillars. the pillar one, two, and three, one, two, three, and four. So the fundamental analysis I mentioned a moment ago, we are very focused on the fundamentals of the stock here. One of the ratings that we like to key in on is called a composite rating. Our composite rating, it takes 5 different ratings and rolls it all up into one rating. So that composite rating, it is about 70% fundamentals, 30% your technical. So it is heavily weighted towards the fundamentals of the stock. And then pillar number two is the timing of the buys and the sells using a technical analysis. As I mentioned a moment ago, we like to look at charts to determine when is the time to buy the stock and when is the time, the optimal time to be selling the stock, especially the sell side. You're using technicals only because once you own the stock, the fundamentals they don't really matter at the moment because remember fundamentals they're lagging they take time for the fundamentals to change. So when it comes, once we own the stock, we focus in on the technicals to determine to determine when it's time to sell a stock. And then pillar number three is the market timings that I mentioned a moment ago, staying in phase with the overall market. Because one thing you don't want to do is be trading against the market. If the market is in an uptrend, like it started out in April 8th, 2026 is when we had what's called the fall through day. That was a signal for us to get back into the market there. And we had a very strong market up until about June 1st. But during that uptrend that started in early April into all of April, May, and kind of topped out in June, if you're trying to short the market, that wasn't working very well. So staying in the phase with the market is extremely important. And then staying in the game with risk management. Risk management, there's a number of ways, but when I think of risk management, I'm thinking of, sell rules. Okay. When you should sell that stock, how much of your portfolio should be invested in the market. Now, we don't have time to get into the details of that. We do discuss that. We have articles that discuss risk management, but the number one risk management tool that we like to focus in on is selling the stock. So selling the stock, if it goes down 7 to 8% below where you bought it, because it's a rule based on the studies that we've done over the last 100 years or so, and that's a that's what we do to manage risk. Risk management is the only thing that you can control. You can't control what the stock is going to do price wise. You have no control over upgrades and downgrades, but you can control how your risk there and what you do to manage your risk when it comes to putting your money to work into the overall market. All right, so I'm just going to give you a brief overview of just some of the products that we have here, starting with the market search. Now, market search is more for the experienced investor. You have to be the type of person that says, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to do my own research. I'm going to do my own screening and things of that nature to come up with my own stock ideas. And then we have a product called Swing Trader. Now, Swing Trader, but first, let me talk about the leaderboard because there are some similarities between the leaderboard and the swing trader. So both leaderboard and swing trader are managed by portfolio managers here at IBD. So when they go take a position in a stock, they send out alerts. So it's very important to have the app for both of those products. So they send out alerts saying that we're going to buy this stock at $100, for example. And if the stock is working, they may add to it. If it's not working, hit the stop loss, they'll send out alerts. So they send out alerts every step of the way. The difference between the two products is leaderboard is more for your traditional long-term holding. So they're looking to buy stock and hold it as long as possible. And they also trade ETFs. So for example, they have XBI, which is an ETF for the biotech. They've had that almost a year. They took a position in August of 2025, and they still hold that position. Whereas a swing trader is much more for your short-term in and out trading. So swing trader, they're looking to get in a stock, hold it for 8 to 10% profit, and then get out and move on to the next stock. So much more short-term trading with swing trader versus the leaderboard. Then you have IBD Live. Now, IBD Live, that is a show that we have every morning. I'm a panelist on IBD Live, and we start about about 10 minutes before the market opens. We talk about the news of the day. And then once the market opens, we talk about, what are we going to do with these stocks? So each of the panelists has some stocks they're considering, and they talk about, okay, what are we going to do to buy this stock here? What are we looking for? Why we won't buy the stock, and so on. So IBD Live, it's a live trading program that goes about an hour and a half, Monday through Friday. And then the IBD Digital, we're going to focus a lot of our time on the IBD Digital. So IBD Digital is our basic product here. The IBD Digital is uh, you got access to a lot of our stock screens, like the IBD 50 sector leaders. And there's another list I'm going to feature and I'm going to talk about here in a little bit that a lot of people aren't aware of here, but I'll talk about that. That's part of the IBD Digital. And then the Market DM newsletter. This is a very powerful newsletter. It's got stock ideas, so it gets emailed to you. Arrives in the morning, probably about 8:30, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So it comes to you by email, and it's got information about stocks that are moving, economic news, what's going on in the overall market. So the Market DM is a very good, timely newsletter. So the IBD Digital. So this is where we're going to spend most of our time during this session. So the IBD Digital, it's got a lot. So with the IBD Digital, it allows you to check what the current market is doing using the big picture article. We have different stock lists that you can use. There's the IBD 50, which IBD is most known for, but we have the other stock lists, the sector leaders, Stock Spotlight, one of my favorite lists, IPO, a list there. So there's a lot of stock lists that you can choose from. There's also featured stock of the day. There's an ongoing algorithm that runs throughout the market session called Stocks on the Move. It is an algorithm that looks at stocks that are experiencing price appreciation on high volume. So a lot of your day traders like to use the Stocks on the Move. And then we have one of the most powerful tools, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, called the Stock Checkup. So we'll get into that a little bit later here. All right, so using the IBD Digital, there's a 3-step routine that we like to use to make the use, and get the most out of the IBD Digital subscription. And we do have an offer for the IBD Digital. You'll see that. We'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the session here. So first thing we need to do with the IBD Digital, we need to know what the market is doing. We know that stocks follow the trend of the market. So your step one is getting a feel for what the overall market is doing. Then once you have a good understanding as to what the overall market is doing, now it's time to look for stocks. You're going to use one of the stock lists in IBD, and I'm going to feature one of the lists here in just a moment. And then once you find a stock from one of those lists, then you need to evaluate that stock. We have a very powerful tool called a stock checkup. And I'm going to get into some of the details of that stock checkup and how you can benefit from the use of that tool. So step one of the 3-step routine is the market direction. So again, stocks follow the trend of the market, so it's very important to know what that trend is, and that's what's being discussed in an article called The Big Picture. So the article gives you some details as to what's going on with the overall market. It's an article that is updated daily on our website at investors.com. It gets updated around 6 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So hasn't been updated yet, but probably in an hour and a half or so, it'll be updated to reflect what happened in today's market. So from our website, you can see there's a little image of our website. You just click on the big picture. It'll take you to that article. In that article, we have this little box here called the Market Pulse here. And really, there's only 2 things you need to be concerned about in this Market Pulse. One is the current outlook, where we have our exposure level. Now, we have 5 different levels of exposure depending on what the overall market is doing. So this exposure level is going to change depending on where we are as far as the market. So right now, we are at 60 to 80%. So basically what we're saying here is that 60 to 80% of your portfolio should be invested in the market. Now, if you're looking at this image here, you see we're at 80 to 100%. So I don't know when that was taken, but 60 at looking at that image, 80 to 100% of your portfolio should be invested in the market based on what you see here. And then we have this category here called distribution days. So this distribution days category, we use this to identify a potential top in the market. Now, the keyword is potential. Doesn't mean that the market is going to top off and sell off based on what you see in this category, but potentially it could. Now, a distribution day is just a day of institutional selling. So the way we define a distribution day is when either the Nasdaq or the S&P 500, where either one of those indexes closes down in price and on higher volume when compared to the previous market day. So again, the price is down when compared to the previous market day, and the volume is higher when compared to the previous market day. So that's your definition of a distribution day. And we're tracking them in this category, and we're using a time frame of 25 trading days. So what we do is we look at, so in this example here, so the 3 distribution days on the NASDAQ, 2 on the S&P 500, that was looking at the previous day's close, looking back 25 trading days. So it's always a moving window of 25 trading days where we're tracking these distribution days. And we do that because typically when we get to a high number of distribution days, and high is considered 5 or 6 distribution days or more, that's usually a time when the market that was once trending up, it might pull back a little bit, and you can see us lower the exposure level to the next level down. So that's what happened recently here. We did lower the exposure level because we do have a high number of distribution days in the current market here. So this market pulse is an extremely important part of what we do here at IBD, and this is all part of the big picture article. All right, so using the big picture article, you read the article, you checked out the market pulse, so you have a pretty good understanding as to what's going on in the overall market. So now you're going to look for stocks. So we have a number of stock lists that can use at IBD. We have, as I mentioned earlier, the IBD 50, sector leaders, stock spotlight, the screen of the day, the stocks on the move, which is that screen a lot of your day traders like to use. The IBD screener, it is back up and running now. The screen of the day. And then, of course, once you look at any of the lists, you can build your own stock list. So you can create 5 different lists, and each of those lists can hold up to 50 stocks here. All right, so step 2 is defining, go to find the stocks. So again, step 1 is getting a feel for the market using the big picture article. Step 2 is using the one of the IBD stock list. One of the lists I want to feature is this list here called New Highs. Especially in the last month or so, there's been a rotation in the market here. And, the market, we had the fall through day on April 8th of 2026, and we have a very strong market to the upside. A lot of your AI stocks and your chip makers, they were leading the charge to the uptrend, to the upside, starting on April 8th. And those are the stocks that were hitting the new highs. But starting probably about June 1st, about a month ago, a little over a month ago, those stocks started to top out and started to sell off. So we've seen a change in the quality, not necessarily the quality of the stocks, but the sectors that were making up the stocks on the new highs. So early today, I just pulled up the list. The list gets updated on a daily basis. So this new highs list, which is part of our research on our research tab here. So I pulled up today, and there were 38 stocks from the banking sector. Now, financials are doing very well in today's market. If you look at XLF, which is the ETF for the financial sector of the market, that's a very strong looking ETF. So this list has about 38 stocks from the banking sector on the new highs list. Also, medical stocks are doing well, very well in today's market too. So 8 of those stocks, there are 8 stocks from the medical sector that are doing very well in this market. So almost half the list is made up of stocks that are in some of the strongest sectors in today's market. The banking sector, the financials are doing very well, and then your medical with the healthcare. So those 2 sectors are pretty much leading the market and have done so in the last several weeks. And our new highs list is one of the lists I like to go to when there's a time where you see, okay, there's some rotation in the market, and and eventually these stocks are going to top out. And I'll be looking at this new highs list to see, okay, well, there's money coming out of the financial sector, but where's that money going? Well, this new highs list is going to reflect where the rotation in the market is going to take place. Back in March, last time I did one of these sessions for the Money Show, there were a lot of oil stocks in here because this was right in the middle of the conflict in the Middle East. So your oil stocks were doing very well. But there's been a rotation out of oil into your tech stocks back in April, and now your tech stocks have topped out, and now your financial stocks and your medical stocks are doing very well. So this new highs list will identify rotation in the market. All right, so, and these are some of the different lists that you can use here in at IBD, but I want to focus in on this new highs list because it is a focus on some of the top sectors in today's market. Now, once you find a stock from the new highs or any other list that we have to offer, you need to evaluate that stock. We have a tool called the stock checkup. So the stock checkup, you type in the symbol and it's going to give you a breakdown of the stock based on 30 different data points there. So it's going to give you the market direction. So you look at this image here. We have the direction of the market, where the industry group, we're very focused in on the industry group, where that stock's industry group ranks among the. I actually need to get a new screenshot here because we now have 145 industry groups. We consolidate some of the industry groups, and then here's some of the data points that we have as far as the stock checkup. So the stock checkup is a very powerful tool. So let's just say, for example, you're looking at this stock here, Acadia Healthcare, ticker symbol ACHC, and maybe you saw financial television or you read about it from some other source. And that happens with a lot of subscribers nowadays because you're getting a lot of information from the internet and social media. And I know a lot of IBD subscribers, they like to use IBD as a final authority as to whether they want to follow up on this stock, on a particular stock. So let's just say you heard about this stock from another source, but you say you want to go to IBD and see what IBD has to say about it. So you plug it in, and it brings up the composite rating. This composite rating I mentioned a moment earlier, it takes 5 different ratings and rolls it all up into one rating. So it's a very comprehensive look at a stock here. And again, it's weighted more towards the fundamentals than the technicals, about 70% fundamentals, 30% your technicals. So you plug it in and you see the stock doctor, he's got a little frown. He doesn't like what he sees. 76, our minimum on the composite rating is an 80. So it's below the minimum. And we like to see stocks that have a composite rating in the 90s, in particular, 95 or higher. But what the stock checkup will do, it will point you to the top stocks in the same industry. So here is the industry group that Arcadia belongs to. Here's the industry group that it belongs to. And it's pointing to this stock, DVA. This is the number one stock in that industry group. So what you would do, you say, Davita, I have never heard of this stock. Or I don't know how to say that, but PGNY, never heard of that stock either. Well, you say, let's take a look at this DVA. So what you would do is you click on this check mark here. It'll bring up the stock checkup for this stock here. And what do you know? It's got a 99, the highest rating that we've got. So you can see here are the top 5 stocks in that same industry group. So we started out looking at Arcadia Healthcare. What it pointed you to a stock that's got much better ratings than the stock we originally started with here. And I know this DVA and this PGNY, both of these stocks are up about 20% in the last since May. Unfortunately, I don't have a position in them, but I was looking at these stocks, and these two stocks have done very well in the market the last couple of months. So the stock checkup, I like to consider the stock checkup my research assistant. I started out with Arcadia, but then it pointed me to a stock that I wasn't very familiar with. So the stock checkup is a very powerful tool. And again, I know a lot of our IBD subscribers like to use this stock checkup as a final authority when they're looking for stocks, and they get stock information from other sources. All right, so now I just want to talk about, what do we have to offer as far as staying connected and staying engaged with the overall market. So we have webinars. We have webinars on a regular basis. We have a very large webinar on our website, a webinar library. That's the word I was looking for. So addressing a variety of topics. I mentioned risk management a moment ago. We have webinars on risk management. We have webinars on selling. We have webinars on a variety of different subjects. We also have live events here. Now, it's not in person live events. They're all done by Zoom. One of the live events that we do every day is called IBD Live. That's the program that I mentioned earlier, where there's four traders every day talking about what they're looking at and how they're trading the current market. And then we have the IBD University. IBD University, we have articles addressing. Remember the four pillars that I pointed out earlier. We have articles addressing all four of those pillars. So we are very big on education because, in my opinion, education, that's your number one risk management strategy. Because if you don't know what to do, you're not educating yourself, then you're not going to manage your money as well as you should. And then uh, Market DM, that's the newsletter I mentioned a moment ago. Market DM, it's got a lot of good information about stocks that are moving, stocks that are setting up. It's got economic news. It's got market news. So it's a very good newsletter, very timely, and it gets delivered to you by email. So it's a real good, I call it like a snapshot as to what's going on in the overall market. All right. And that's all I have for you today. So, Charlotte, any questions come through on the chat here?
Thank you, Harold. Great presentation there. Now, it looks like we don't have any questions at this time. I know we just have a couple of minutes left here. Harold, anything that you thought, maybe you want to share with the audience, something that you didn't think you'd have time to cover today, or just frequently asked questions that you tend to get from your other IBD presentations?
Well, one of the questions we get is we get asked, do we still have a newspaper? And yes, we do have a newspaper still. It gets delivered once a week, but the offer for today is just a digital only. So I just wanted to address that. And then, I mentioned it earlier. We had rotation in the market, and that new highs list is that's my go-to, because when the market rotates, there's always going to be rotation in the market, and that new highs list is going to point me to where that big money on Wall Street is going. In April and May, and it was going into the technology sector. Your AI stocks, your chip makers. That's where that big money was going. But nothing is going to go up forever. So I went to that new highs list when it appeared that those stocks were running out of gas and losing some of the momentum to the upside. So I went to the new highs list to see, okay, where is that money in Wall Street going? It went from your AI stocks and your technology stocks into your financials and your medical stocks. So just going to reiterate that that new highs list is very good for spotting rotation in the overall market.
Thanks, Harold. I actually just got a couple of questions here in the chat. It says, what is the lag time on the excuse me, what is the lag time on the rotation reaction to change?
Well, there isn't much of a lag time because that list gets updated on a daily basis. So the new highs list is updated daily. So when there's rotation in the market, it does take time. You're not going to see tech stocks leading one day and then financials leading the next day. So the market, when it rises, and when it rolls over into another sector of the market, it's very gradual. And if you're looking at that list on a daily basis, you can see it. You start to see maybe it was dominated by your technology stocks in April and May, but you start to see a few of those stocks start to fall off the list. Looking at the list today, there's I think it was four stocks from the technology sector on the list, but it's dominated by banks because that sector of the market is doing very well. Eventually, there's going to be rotation out of your banks here. So you're going to start to see the number of stocks on the banking sector that'll start to get smaller. Right now, there's 38, but it could go down to 30, and then 25, and then 20, and then you start to see some other sector of the market. Maybe it's oil and gas. The conflict in the Middle East is starting to get a little bit starting to rear its ugly head again. So maybe your oil stocks will start to benefit because of the conflict in the Middle East, like it did back in March. So when the market tops, it's gradual, and when that rotation takes place, it's pretty gradual. So that new highs list is updated on a daily basis. So I check it. Usually, I like to check it before the market opens so I get a feel for what's going on in the overall market, and can I spot that rotation in the market.
Thank you, Harold. And then would you mind just reviewing what the special offer includes?
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah, I do have. So the IBD digital. So here's the special for the IBD digital is $15 for 6 weeks of the IBD digital. Okay, so IBD digital includes the different stock lists that we have. The IBD 50, the sector leaders, the big cap 20, the IPO list, that new highs list I just mentioned earlier. It also includes that stock checkup, that tool that gives you that'll show you the top stocks in an industry group. So you just plug in that stock, and it'll show you, who are the leaders in that particular industry for that stock there. So that's 15 weeks, $15 for 6 weeks of the IBD digital, and then the market DM newsletter. We have a special going. It's only $20 a year, so it's very cheap. You get a lot of good information out of that market DM newsletter. So this is one of the things I check, and I've gotten stock ideas out of this. You can easily, you get one idea, it easily pays for itself for the with this market DM there. So those are the two offers that we have today. So I would take advantage of these today. So just go get started. And then we have a lot of education. I mentioned the educational components we have here at IBD to help you get the most out of your IBD digital subscription.
Well, Harold, thank you again. And to those of you watching us live, as he mentioned, the special offers that are available, you can click the links that are in the IBD virtual booth. It's up at the top in their description. That is where you can find the links to access these special offers. And then you can also reach out to their team if you would prefer. We have a form submission down there where you can reach out if you want to speak to someone on their team. So Harold, thank you again. As always, it's a pleasure having you on. Wonderful presentation, and glad that we were able to answer a couple of questions at the end there. To those of you who are watching this live, thank you as well for joining us, and be sure to tune back in tomorrow. We will be back at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time with another full day of presentations for you. We hope to see you all there. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.